Hello to all you beautiful listeners. It's me, Greg Delmage, back with some more random encounter for you, and that means more news at the top of the episode. Understandably, the industry's a little more quiet at the moment, so there's not a whole lot, and then we get to go into the episode proper, so let's go. First of all, we dive into the latest Crowdfunding Chronicles offering from Tina Ola, which features Sea of Stars. If you haven't heard of it already, this beauty coming out of Quebec, Canada has been pledged up the wazoo. It's a wonderful retro-inspired turn-based RPG that now has one of the composers from Chrono Trigger coming on board as well, which is fantastic. So this game is just shaping up to look incredible, especially with how heavy a homage it is paying to Chrono Trigger. The Messenger was a retro action game. It landed really well as well, and I think it's pretty much on sale as of this recording on a bunch of different stuff. So go check it out. Go look at the funding progress of Sea of Stars, see if you want to get on board from this new offering from Sabotage Studio. At some point, someone got the idea that maybe we should let Patrick Gann out of the music review section, and he figured, you know what people need to know about? Atelier. So you want to start an Atelier as a feature that Patrick has put together that lays out the entire Atelier series for you to kind of figure out, is this something you want to get into? Gust has been developing these for ages, and they just got this really lovely little kind of slice of life shopkeeping kind of look to them. They're anime as heck, but there's a lot to go into. They've been rather hit or miss over the years. Back when I first started listening to Random Encounter myself, I was always curious about them as they talked about them, often, usually Derek, with up and down different reviews of them. So anyways, if you want to know about the Atelier series, if it's for you to get into, Patrick's feature is the place to start. Back in mid-March, Team Ninja dropped their follow-up to Neo 2. This lovely action RPG was reviewed by Bob Richardson, who he has given an RPG fan editor's choice to. This game looks absolutely awesome with the right level of challenge and level design, but, you know, it's an action RPG, so sometimes they'll suffer in other ways, like story. But all that being said, the game looks fantastic. Go check out Bob's review. Another game that you may have heard of, it's kind of a big deal, the Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. I don't know if you want to hear about it, but if you do, go check out Alana's review of it. Overall, it says this is just a great time to be a fan of Final Fantasy VII. Even if the game has its flaws, it's still a fantastic title to check out. It looks like Square Enix has done its fans right, but obviously you're going to take from it what you will and decide what you want about it, because it's really hard to nail a remake. But go check out the review to see if your opinions are in line with Alana's. Neil Chandran went on a nice little graphic adventure with Anachronist Many Happy Returns, and it doesn't look like it had as many happy returns as he would have liked. That being said, he found some stuff to like about it, and maybe others will see more in it. I mean, reviews are subjective as they are, but if you want to see if maybe Later Games' latest is up your alley, go check out Neil's review on the site. So since Patrick was writing a feature, I guess, someone else had to step in and do the whole music review thing, and Hilary Andreff went into the latest Square Enix album release for the Square Enix Jazz compilation of Final Fantasy VII, and her review's great. This album sounds fantastic. I like the anecdote from her dad. She got his opinion since he's a big jazz buff. Anyways, Hillary really seems to know her stuff when it comes to jazz, so I definitely trust her thoughts on this review, and you ought to as well, so go give it a read. And look at that. That's it. Just a few things, but, one of them's kind of huge. But at any rate, we have a good episode coming up for you, so, enjoy the listen. Hey listeners, everything's cool. I think. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird time, but everything's cool over here, so that's cool. I'm Greg Delmage. I'm here with a handsome panel of fellows for episode 186 of Random Encounter. As always, joining me nowadays, I have my charming co-host, Jono Logan.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing in their lovely homes?
We'll assume they've said, "We're doing all right, Jono."
I hope so.
There's my canned response for you.
Everyone's doing great right now.
Yeah, in my mind, it's Fantasyland right now. And the other persons we have, let's go over to a longtime listener, a longtime contributor, longtime friend, Nathan Lee.
Hello, everyone. It's Persona 5 Royal Week.
Yes, it is. It's pretty exciting, and we've had some in progress from you come out, so let's see what the end of your progress, I guess, rounds out with.
More in progress from me.
We'll get to that. And then lastly, coming back for, I don't think, have you, yeah, you haven't been on since our like Game of the Year discussions and such yet, have you, since then, Tyler? But Tyler Trosper's back.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, it's been a little bit, but I'm glad to be back.
We did shout out to you, I think, last episode, though. So,
I haven't listened to it yet, but...
It was okay. We were being totally kind, I swear.
I'm kind of nervous now.
It's okay. You're great at playing action RPGs. That's what we talked about. That's how awesome you are. Either way, thanks for putting up with me, putting up with us, and coming back on the episode. Same to you, listeners. Thanks for being back here again. It's been a fun couple weeks of getting through some trying times globally. We're all trying to figure this out as we go. As I watch neighbors walk around who I've never seen walk around before. We're all trying to take a little more time to ourselves and make the best of this, which is great. And I hope you're doing the same. And you're here listening to us to kind of, feel some human connection, listen to what's going on in video games, and just have some fun with us as we goof around and drink unseasonable eggnog lattes. That's what I'm doing right now, by the way. It's the benefit of having vegan coconog, because I can't do regular eggnog due to lactose and egg intolerance. Super fun combo. Keeps me honest. But they did a big, huge liquidation at one of the local grocers when the season was done, and so they were selling the little Tetra packs of the coconut eggnog. It's my favorite brand too. It's so good, and it was $1.50. So I bought 6 or 7 or 8 of them or something like that. So they last.
You're
till
good on
next
nog
year.
for months.
Exactly. So they last till next year. So I was like, once a month, because otherwise I'll get fat, and I will drink them all in 1 month. I've been limiting myself to having 1 pack a month, and so I just busted this one out, and I was like, I'm gonna have a latte.
It's your quarantine nog.
Exactly, in quarantine nog. I don't know. Let's not even. Anyhow, so if you want to hear about more eggnog stories, you can find me anywhere on social media as @GregDelmage pretty much, and I'm GDelmy on our Discord. Jono, how can the listeners find you should they want to?
You can find me at Jono Logan on Twitter, and I'm occasionally on the Discord.
Nathan, where are you at?
I'm at SmashKing27 on Twitter, and you can find me on Discord at SmashKing.
And Tyler, you know the drill now.
I am at Cosmos Chaos on Twitter, and that's Cosmos with a K and Chaos with a C.
I mean, Tyler, you don't like Xenosaga, do you?
Oh, no, just a little bit. Just tiny.
You've only devoted an entire, New Horizons island to Xeno things.
Yeah, and created several outfits and characters from Xenosaga on my island. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wouldn't be a podcast right now about video games. I know we're mostly RPGs, but obviously a lot of us have been playing Animal Crossing now. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, did you play Animal Crossing? Is this your first Animal Crossing, Tyler?
Technically, I rented the first one on GameCube a long time ago, but my memory card
Nice.
did not have enough space to save on it, so I only played it for
Oh, no.
Yeah, 15 minutes or something. So this is my first official time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, on the my first time was on the 3DS with New Leaf, and one of the things they had, which I loved, is they had the occasional items you could get from fortune cookies that were Nintendo character themed and stuff. So I'm wondering if they will bring that back. I mean, they seem to have a very robust costuming thing now, so you can pretty much make whatever.
Right.
But they had you could get Yoshi's egg and just have Yoshi's egg chilling in your house as a decoration. So it'd be really fun if they got the Monado, considering how tied to stuff is.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. That'd be awesome.
Yes, you'd have his Monado shrine. Well, and this fact that you can put stuff outside now too. I would love to get the Master Sword again and make a little forest shrine for the Master Sword, a la A Link to the Past. It'd be amazing. So I'm hoping they introduce that again, or it'll come back with the fortune cookies or something. I don't know. This game seems to be starting out the Minecraft kind of style, and then you kind of build it up to basically being more like New Leaf, where they kind of trick you into becoming basically the mayor of this island. So it's more or less the same game in the end, but you have to kind of earn it more now, which is kind of neat. At any rate, so that's what I've been playing a lot as well as you. So I've been appreciating your Xeno-themed island updates.
Thank you.
Yes, no kidding. And Nathan, I know you've been doing a lot of Persona for the site. Did you get New Horizon as well, or no?
No, I decided to skip out on it. I already have Persona 5 Royal, so that's my quarantine game.
And it's, yeah, we'll talk about that, that's for sure.
Yeah. But maybe later down the road, perhaps. Like, I've already got like so many review assignments already, and it's just continuing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, I wasn't too hard up for it either. As much as I wanted to do the socializing and hanging out with people, it was I was also kind of like, I do have a lot to play as it is, so I think I'm okay. But then some very kind friends insisted I should have it so I can socialize with them and other friends. So it's been fun. I got to play with Gwen. And Jono, what about you? Are you do you like to cross your animals?
My Animal Crossing experience is my partner downloaded the mobile phone version a few years ago and got really addicted to it. Yeah, Pocket Camp. She got really addicted to it for like 5 months, and then she just stopped playing it dead, went cold turkey. And a couple of days ago, I asked her, hey, do you want me to get Animal Crossing for you? And she's like, oh, God, no. No, that's a bad idea.
She knows her limits, and she will play within them.
So yeah, there will be no Animal Crossings in this household.
It'll be very easy to forget regular life and just commit to Animal Crossing life, which is, I think, a healthy-ish way that a lot of people are, I guess, using it for. Just to kind of realize they can't do their routine as per normal, so they made a new routine in the game.
Not that Nintendo planned it, but holy crap, is their timing good on this thing.
Yeah, no kidding. They just need some DLC to pay for.
It's my job now.
Right? Yeah, it's very easy to get up in the morning, make yourself a coffee or get cereal and be like, all right, I'm going to do a few daily tasks in Animal Crossing. And cool, it's lunch now. Awesome. All right. There goes 2 hours. But it's been good. I've been able to catch up with some friends and socialize. When Gwen's at her dad's, we finally did tee up and I went to visit her island. She comes to my island. I helped her plant some flowers, so that's been fun. And stuff like that. And share around some ideas and tricks and stuff where she hasn't quite figured out. And that's been kind of neat. So I've been liking that aspect of it. And yeah, it's good for that. So, friends, whether it's WoW or Final Fantasy 14 or Animal Crossing, whatever, get that. Don't forget to socialize when you're playing your games. It can be fun sometimes. Or just hop on Discord and chat with people. That's been fun too. I have some friends that do that. They'll all play separate things, but they'll just be chatting like they're basically hanging out, which has been nice. Yeah. Speaking of games, though, that aren't Animal Crossing, as this is, the RPG Fan RPG podcast, Jono, we lately would not have a podcast if there was not some mention of Yakuza. What is your judgment on Judgment?
Oh, I'm afraid that future podcasts will be Yakuza-less because I have finished all of the available games in English, and I am...
Oh, there will be more.
There will be more. There'll be one more in a few months. Well, hopefully a few months. Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the turn-based next installment, which I'm super excited for. But yeah, no, I've completely...
We have to figure out a way to say that pretty, badass, though, to be honest. I mean, you can't say just, Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's going to be like a dragon. Or, like the intro to Dragon Ball Z in America. Like a dragon! We just need a way to say it every single time. It's I'm going to play the Yakuza like a dragon!
I'll tell you what, when I get the game, it'll probably take me about 100 hours to do, so we can workshop ways to say Yakuza Like a Dragon in that episode.
Listeners, if you have any suggestions for how we should say like a dragon, please email me at podcast@rpgfan.com. Anyways, stupidity aside, yeah, Judgment, how's that been?
Judgment was great. I mean, it's a Yakuza game. I finished it. It takes itself a lot more seriously than most Yakuza games I've found. There are still the occasional moments of wackiness and just crazy side quests, which are essentially side cases in this game. But the story...
And they had pared some down in this one, or was that 6?
No, this one's had
confusing them.
6 pared everything down. It did not feel...
Oh, okay.
I did not feel like a complete game to me. The story was there, but all of this, it just didn't feel as sweeping as a lot of games. But Judgment feels huge. There's tons of content. I easily broke 100 hours on it. the big difference I would say is Yakuza is a mix of just like wacky comedy and insane over-the-top melodrama, and Judgment doesn't have that. It's a very, very different tone of game. It's much more episodic. It feels like almost a police procedural in many ways, like a television show. Like every single chapter starts with like a last time on Judgment, and I think I mentioned that.
Oh, dope.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, and I guess that feeds into like the law nature of it, and kind of how people have been comparing certain aspects of it to Ace Attorney, kind of thing. So just that whole picking up the that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of Ace Attorney references in this game, like a lot of them. But I'm not gonna. It's Ace Attorney crossed with Yakuza, but it's a lot more Yakuza than Ace Attorney. That being said, I highly recommend it. If no one's ever played a Yakuza game, you don't need to enjoy this one. There are no characters from Yakuza showing up in it. It's its own standalone story. And I highly recommend it. I think it was a very, very enjoyable time. And it still has the Yakuza wackiness to it. It just feels a little bit more pared down and a little bit more of a serious story. It takes itself a little bit more seriously than the mainline Yakuza titles. And that's not a bad thing. It's a nice change.
Nice. And unless it takes like the total fun out of the surprise of it or something, like what was the wackiest, most like I guess out of context side thing and or like mini game that you got to play in Judgment?
Well, there are various side quests. Throughout the game, you meet these twins, this brother and sister, who and the girl is called repeatedly throughout the story a pervert magnet, and she keeps getting harassed by a variety of perverts, and they keep hiring you to track down this pervert and basically beat the hell out of him. So, like, the first one is the first pervert.
Oh,
the first pervert is named Ass Ketchum.
Beautiful, just chef's kiss.
Yep, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. And yeah, those feel very much like, okay, this is the usual Yakuza, just real sharp tone shift between the main story and the sub stories. Another thing I really liked about this game was in the Yakuza titles, you always go to cabaret clubs and you form relationships with the girls there, and then you can take them out on occasional dates. And it usually leads to like a romance scene. In I think it's 0, 1, and 2, you get what I can only describe as mildly disturbing little softcore porn videos of them after you successfully sleep with them.
Is it like Mass Effect kind of style, like Dragon Age? Is it that kind of level of softcore, or is it
no? They're usually
more on like the Witcher side, or where does it go?
The weird thing is the girls are all based after real idols in Japan. So they actually they don't use the character models; they use the actual like actor as herself in the video. So they're like little live action video segments. But these were in all the older games, and it was, I mean, there's
interesting.
There's never anything wrong with it. But in Judgment, you are genuinely like meeting women throughout the game through cases or otherwise, and asking them out on dates and texting them, and so you actually like develop relationships with them, and it's a nice change of pace. And it's I mean, I've never been a giant fan of the cabaret club mini games, at least not the ones where you have to actually like form relationships. Running the club is different, but in this you just make friends, you form connections, and I found that to be a lot more fun and a lot more fulfilling. So there's a lot about Judgment that I really liked, and there's a lot about it that I hope they carry over into Yakuza Like a Dragon. I didn't like that.
That's version 1.
That's version 1. We'll figure it out. It just needs a little bit of fine-tuning. On the whole, though, great game. Really enjoyed it. Was well worth the money. It seems like all the Yakuza titles are going on sale with regularity now, I guess because, everyone's stuck inside, so they want to capitalize. So if anyone out there is looking for some really long, fun games, and you like beat-em-ups with a lot more depth than the usual beat-em-ups, Yakuza titles are a good choice, and Judgment is a very good place to start.
That's awesome to hear. Cool. I am very interested to see what Like a Dragon sounds like and comes out like, because it's neat that it's going to be very like That's what we were going to talk about. Did you watch Dragon Quest Your Story yet?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh my gosh, okay. We can't even touch on that. Nathan, you watched it, right?
No, actually, I haven't. And just hearing about it makes me not want to watch it.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, because it was funny because Jono was saying, what were you with Like a Dragon, it's basically through the point of view of like someone who is like very much invested in kind of like RPGs and stuff, right? Or something like that?
Yeah,
I haven't looked up much on it.
I mean, this is based on who knows how it'll be spun in the English translation, but the idea is the new main character, because it's not Kiryu. He is a giant fan of Dragon Quest, and I guess he gets brain damaged or something, so he starts seeing the entire world as a Dragon Quest game. So, like, apparently it is going to be very similar to a Dragon Quest game in terms of, like, there's a full-blown job system, it's turn-based combat,
Nice.
It's
going to be a very different flavor.
It'll be a different flavor, but apparently they're really going to be shoving a lot of Dragon Quest references in there, which is really interesting to me because it's Sega.
That's going to be kind of cool. But without getting into the film, since you two haven't seen it, but Tyler, you can probably now pick up on where I'm going with the relation between these two things.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was very curious to see, once they've seen the film, how this gets perceived with them as well. So it'll be interesting. Anyways, we won't go into that, but people who have seen the film, you probably know where I'm going. You may be picking up now what I'm hinting at for you two. Anyways, whatever. We'll go into that at some point in time. But for now, you know what? I was going to do another thing, but I'm going to switch it around because we were just talking about Dragon Quest. And Tyler, you were playing Dragon Quest 11S, which we've talked about Dragon Quest 11 on the show in the past when it came out in pretty decent detail. But Dragon Quest 11S, where did we get that? Was it... Man, how long ago did we get to 11S? That was it 2020?
No, it was last year.
Or was it just before Christmas?
I think
it was
like,
okay.
Yeah, November or something.
I think it was November, yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah. And we haven't really talked about it on the show since, because no one who had played 11S came on the show to really talk about the differences. We've only had the people who've played the original and weren't getting the newer version yet. So, yeah, how does this one handle with the better soundtrack, the extended story beats, all that sort of stuff? How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, this might be sacrilegious, but this is actually my first Dragon Quest game. And
That's okay. You can start big.
Yeah, and I didn't play the PlayStation 4 version, but I do know some of the additions. But it was a very enjoyable game. It took me 165 hours, which did not expect that. But like some of the new additions, like there's some extra side stories for characters during the game's second act. Which some were pretty good.
Did it feel like
a bit? God, yeah, it felt like 165. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really enjoyed the game, but after a while, it kind of overstayed its welcome, especially in Act 3, in my opinion.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But yeah, it was enjoyable, and then soundtrack wise, it was still kind of repetitive. Especially reusing the same town.
Yeah, even orchestrated, it's a very small selection of music to choose from.
Yeah, I changed it to the original soundtrack like once for like maybe 5 minutes, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go back to the orchestra.
Oh, this is why people wanted this. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, music in Dragon Quest games is a fairly controversial topic.
So I've heard.
Yes. It's so weird. Yeah. And so that probably didn't help make it overstay its welcome, I suppose. Like, what do you feel? Do you feel like the added content wasn't really enough to make it more enjoyable and you more just felt like more padding? Or was it enough that you're like, when you got to it, that you're like, oh, okay, well, at least there's this, and maybe did it reinvigorate it, or were you just like done by the time you got to extra stuff?
It really depends. I did like the side stories, even though some of them are kind of short and kind of, I don't know, they were all right. But as far as like any other content, I'm not certain like at some point what stuff was, or like from the Switch version, stuff was from the PlayStation 4 version. I know there's at one point where you can marry one of your, or I quotation marks, marry one of your party members. And I guess that wasn't in the PlayStation 4 version, because I was talking about it with some friends, and they were like, "Wait, what?" But that
okay.
That was
so that adds something a lot more exciting.
Yeah. So of course I married Sylvando, which was great. But
I was gonna say, did you marry Sylvando? Because I feel like he's the one that everyone probably should.
God, yes, and it was great. But
I'm sure it was a fabulous wedding.
It was quite the relationship there. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I just, near the end of, Act 3 in general just felt like a drag, even though it was like an additional, I think it took me an extra 30 hours, and I still didn't do everything in the game. And I didn't really do any, oh yeah, that's right, there was that other added content, the 2D mode.
Oh yeah, how did that handle? Because you could swap back and forth, or was it just when you were in handheld only? Like, how did that play out?
The 3DS version
was really exciting.
When you went into churches, you could switch the game to the 2D mode. I think it's supposed to make us extra separate save or something like that. And there's also, you can go to, I think it was Talkington, or you can go to this extra place and go back to dungeon or areas from older Dragon Quest games, which I messed around with a little.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I messed around with a little bit, which I'm sure longtime fans might like enjoy that, but since I didn't really have the nostalgia, I didn't really do much of that.
Kind of lost on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
But it was interesting.
So yeah, so something I loosely asked, but didn't really we went on a different point. But yeah, do you feel there's any way that could have made this a more enjoyable 160 hours, or is it just because it was such repetitive Dragon Quest? Was the story just not quite grabbing you, or what would have reinvigorated that?
I really, the story was all right, especially during Act 2, but I kind of wish they had just stopped at Act 2 and just Act 3 didn't exist. That would have been a lot more enjoyable to me, but that's my opinion.
And that's totally fair. Because, Nathan, if I recall, you played it on the PlayStation 4, the core version?
Yeah, I played the original version. I didn't finish it, though, but I was pretty close to finishing it.
And did you not finish it kind of for the same reasons? Did you fall off it a bit? It was overstaying its welcome and you just kind of had to put it away for a bit? Or is it more just you had other priorities?
There's other priorities, and then I heard what they were doing to 11S, and I was like, I'd rather finish it on the Switch instead. But then the problem is, last year I got busy, then I never ended up playing it on Switch. I have it, though. It's sitting in my room.
Oh, you do have 11S. Gotcha. Cool. Well, we'll get to hear, I guess, how you weigh in on it, I suppose. But have you mostly enjoyed what you've played by comparison?
Yeah, I did really enjoy Dragon Quest 11. I love Dragon Quest as a series in general. But same issues I always have is with the music. It's the Dragon Quest, it was fine when it was on DS and whatever, you only had 6 tracks total, but when it's on PlayStation 4 and you have 10 tracks, it's it's not even orchestrated.
Yeah, right? And even now, the orchestration helps, but the limited number. It's weird how easily you can take the music for granted for how much it does add to the repetition or not of a game. And how quickly you're well, I'm going to switch this off and put something else on instead. And I don't know if the game has settings sliders for that, where you can turn off just the music volume but keep everything else.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it, to be honest.
I haven't. Yeah, I'm not certain either.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could just go and throw on your own orchestrated whatever if you wanted.
I was about to say that wouldn't it be cool if, I don't know if this exists or not, but if somebody online is hacked Dragon Quest 11 to drop in Final Fantasy tracks, just switch out the music and put in a better soundtrack.
I know there was a mod for it on PC that someone had made, but obviously you couldn't do that.
Just going to mention that the PC version has a mod where you could put in the orchestrated music, so that would make it a little easier. I think Scott streamed it on our Twitch channel.
He did with that, yeah. That was his nice little adjustment to it that I think was very welcome. But still, only so much music is out there of that game. At any rate, I'm glad you did have a mostly good time with it, and you've cleansed the palate, though. What are you moving on to aside from Horizon Zero Dawn? Animal Crossing, Horizon Zero Dawn. You're going to get invaded by robotic animals and stuff that join your island. But yeah, New Horizons. Is that mostly consuming your time, or you got another RPG in the bucket?
Well, in between that, I've been playing Valkyria Chronicles 4, and I do have Fire Emblem Three Houses finally, but I haven't started that yet.
Well, you have it on good authority from a few folks here that's probably going to be a very good time.
Yeah, that's why I mostly bought it, because everybody here loves it so much.
Yeah, I need to get back to that as well myself, and that probably will be, once I get through a few projects, will be my next RPG to pick up in this self-isolation. But cool, thanks for sharing that. Speaking of, I guess, things to do keep you very busy in self-isolation. Nathan, you've been farming in Rune Factory you did that a bit ago, obviously, because that was your last big, I think, review project. But it was, I guess, kind of like Persona 5, where it was longer than expected. Mostly because of some game mechanic stuff.
So, I played the original Rune Factory. It was my most played 3DS game. Well, one of my most played 3DS games, I should say. I put in over 600 hours in the original version. So I knew how long this was going to be and how much time I was going to spend on it, but of course the town event RNG made it a little bit longer than I was hoping it would be for my review, so that's a little bit unfortunate.
And you, for Rune Factory, did you play the first Rune Factory, the second, the third, etc., all the way up to 4?
So I played the mainline series, I guess mainline quote-unquote series of Rune Factory, which is 1 through 4. I didn't play any of the spin-offs that are on console, so I didn't play Tides of Destiny or Frontier. So it's just, for me, it was just on DS. So that's why when I played Rune Factory 4 for the first time, it blew me away with all the improvements that it made since 3. So that's why I was so high on Factory 4 when it came out.
Amazing. And with Rune Factory, did you play Harvest Moon before that?
Yeah, so I played, I think I mentioned it when we were talking before we started the podcast. My first one was Friends of Mineral Town. And then I played a couple more after that. The names escape me, though. I can't remember what those ones were. I think there's one on DS.
But you started on the GBA.
Yeah, I started on GBA, because it's actually funny, because I think it was my sister's game at first. And then she wanted my help with certain parts of the game, and then eventually I just ended up taking the game from her. And
you got super addicted to farming.
I got super addicted.
It does that,
to Harvest Moon.
My first Harvest Moon was 64, and I think a friend of mine had rented it when I was visiting his house. And he's like, I got this Harvest Moon 64 game. I was like, what's this about? That sounds kind of cool. And he's like, oh, it's all about farming and stuff. I'm like, right, whatever. And then jump cut to me playing until 3 a.m. while he's off asleep. And so I was hooked right after that. It's I find the Harvest Moon, the farming sim thing, it's a love it or hate it thing, right? You're either really into it or you want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's why I like Rune Factories, because even if you don't like a lot of that farming aspects of the game, there's always the RPG parts of Rune Factory, which is the great gameplay diversity, which is why I can never go back to Harvest Moon or Story Seasons now.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, so the jump from Harvest Moon to Rune Factory was a welcome one for you, even though I still find, most of my Rune Factory experience is in Frontier. I did rent the first one back when I think I first got my 3DS. I had borrowed some, or maybe it was when I got my DS, and I had gotten some DS games just to try some different stuff out. But I eventually tracked down a copy of Frontier when it was hard to find. And so I've always found the combat to be a bit ham-fisted. It's not well integrated, but it's there.
It's not that well integrated. Even Rune Factory 4, I'm basically just mashing one button to win in combat, but it's still still gives you something else to do besides just farming, right? You get to go out and explore dungeons and pick up some nice materials that you can make your own weapons from. It's the stuff that surrounds the combat that makes it great.
Yeah, it changes up the formula, which I think was a nice shakeup for people who wanted a bit more to do. There's people, again, who love just the Animal Crossing day-to-day whatever stuff of just farming, getting to know the neighbors, that sort of thing. It's very much that slice of life kind of RPG aspect is something that a lot of people crave. But yeah, having that change of pace to be you know what, instead I'm going to go do some mining and have to fight some monsters. What blew me away was that you couldn't just go and buy your animals, that you had to actually tame them, and that you could tame the monsters to become like your farm animals, which I thought was really cool. Like get the cow. I think in Frontiers they're called the buffamoos.
Yeah, the buffamoos. Yeah,
They're just like a big buffalo cow hybrid thing, and then that becomes like your cow at home. And then conversely, you can also train some other animals, and then they'll come back and help you out on the farm and stuff too, which was kind of neat. And you could also take them with you into combat. I don't know, was that in the original Rune Factory that you could bring monsters with you into combat, or was that later introduced?
No, that was introduced in the original Rune Factory.
Oh, okay, cool.
At least I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, the original Rune Factory was years ago, and the memory escapes me if you could bring them into
been
combat.
a while.
But I'm pretty sure you could. I remember you could definitely bring townspeople into combat with you, but...
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I don't think that's in Frontier.
Oh, that wasn't Frontier? Interesting, because that's...
No, it's not. It's just people you can romance and stuff, but I haven't seemed to have anyone I could adventure with.
Oh, okay. That's always been a thing in Rune Factory games, so it's interesting that they would take it out of this particular entry.
Or I just haven't unlocked it yet. I mean, I haven't gone through... It's a long play, and I think I've only gone through my first year, maybe. It's when I come back to, like, I go through it in doses. Like, okay. I love it, but it can very easily suck me in for too long, so I have to, like, set it aside for a bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's part of the reason why I haven't done Stardew Valley, because I know I'll just be like, cool, my life is done now. I will just play Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Like, I go back to Rune Factory 4 special every, like, couple of weeks just to make sure I remember what I was doing, because I know if I leave it for too long, I'm going to forget what I was doing, and then everything gets messed up from there. So,
yeah, if you've got stuff, like, planted in what dungeons and what things you were working towards crafting and who you were romancing and yada yada yada. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to remember.
And amusingly, since you bring up Friends of Mineral Town, that's coming out on the Switch now. They're finally porting that, although they're changing it over from Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town, or Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town, instead of it being Harvest Moon. So I guess they're making it much more obvious that quote unquote Harvest Moon is done, or
it's
I guess whoever originally had the rights.
Yeah, so it's a complicated story what happened with Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon still exists, it's just a different series now, but Story Seasons is formerly Harvest Moon.
Yeah, the Lighthouse of Hope or whatever was awful looking.
Yeah, the Harvest Moon ones are typically the ones that don't look as good now.
Yeah, it looked like just a very, like, slightly better mobile game. It really didn't land well, even though it was, like, a console release. I was just like, nope. I like the look of Story of Seasons now. I have the original Story of Seasons, and it was very similar to core Harvest Moon, but there's a lot to unpack in that game. And I kind of wish I'd held out for 2, because 2, again, seemed to iterate and do a lot better with the formula and make a lot more nice quality of life stuff and make it a bit more engaging. But this one seems to be, straight up just the original. So I'm just wondering if whoever led the studio over to, because it was one of the original Harvest Moon creators who kind of split off to do their own thing with Story of Seasons, right?
I think so. Actually, I'm not sure, because I think it's more of a case of the Western localization changed, because it went...
Isn't it still, like, the same series, but Natsume, like, still has, like, the trademark for the name Harvest Moon, so they've been making their own separate games, and Exceed's...
Yeah, something like that. Because it's Exceed and Marvelous. I don't know if... Yeah, Natsume is...
So Natsume owns the naming rights to Harvest Moons. That's why they can make their own series. But Exceed now owns the rights to the original Harvest Moon series. So they renamed it to Story Seasons. So Story Seasons is the ones from the original developers.
Oh, that's a weird... So Harvest Moon technically now isn't the original developers anymore. Story of Seasons is. That is weird. So that's why they were able to have the rights to port Friends of Mineral Town, but that's why they had to change it to Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town.
Yeah, super confusing.
So if we were to get any ports, that's what would happen to us in the future too, if we were to say get like Story of Season 64. Oh, that's funny. Either way, it's a weird thing when it comes to, I guess, rights and such, but yeah. Tyler, have you been doing any other farming outside of Horizon?
No, not really. I played a little bit of Harvest Moon a long time ago. Like, not very much.
Didn't grab you as much?
It was alright. I guess I didn't get as invested as I am in Animal Crossing now, but And then I have Stardew Valley, but I haven't dedicated much time to it yet.
And how about you, Jono? Have you ever like dabbled with the farming sims, or is that a niche that hasn't really been for you?
I played the original Harvest Moon for SNES for a little while. I liked it. It didn't grab me a whole lot, but I liked it. I just kind of assumed that Stardew Valley just killed Harvest Moon and buried it in one of the fields where it was growing tomatoes.
In a lot of ways, it kind of has, from what I've seen, because it's like the best of...
Yeah.
It's basically perfecting on everything that Harvest Moon kind of laid the groundwork for and that Rune Factory laid the ground for. So I can't blame people for wanting to turn to it for what it is. And we have a ton of spin-off things of it now as well. You know, there's My Time at Portia, which is like a very different version of that, which I'd be interested to try out. And Seasons of Mara, I think, is one coming up soon that's going to be on the Switch. And that one looks really cool too. But again, very much more broad and diverse. And I don't know if it has... I haven't looked into it super in depth, so I don't know if it has like the combat aspects. I tried a demo back when kind of self-isolation was starting. There was an indie kind of showcase on Steam, and one of them was is it Stories from the Garden? What is it called? But it's like a little like RPG where you play as a grape called Concord, and you're a little chosen hero. So it plays very much like a Zelda-like, but there's also a bit of like town management and farm management as well, because you can eventually start crafting stuff in town and helping develop the town. So that's kind of like a best of both worlds as well. So like there's a ton of them out there, but yeah, like Stardew Valley has definitely dominated for a reason. So it's...
I played Stardew Valley. I guess I liked it. I played it for a couple of in-game months. I was engaged by it, and then I just kind of stopped playing it. Just farm sims are fun, but they've never quite clicked with me in terms of my engagement. I just kind of use them as a, okay, that was fun. Kind of done with that now. And I mean, I know some people have, they dive into a farm sim very similar to how they would dive into Animal Crossing. It just kind of becomes a parallel life. And as I understand it, the storyline behind Stardew Valley is basically that. It's the idea you're kind of stuck in the rat race and you want to get out, and it's a very appealing idea.
Well, exactly. So it's very easy to commit to. And like I'm kind of the same. Like I love Harvest Moon and I'm fully invested when I'm in it, but I have to do it in doses and step away for a bit because every once in a while you crave a different flavor. But I like to go back to my farm to have that escape, and I've always loved that. If I can't find the pastoral life in real life, then I'll find it somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat.
I mean, I might give it another shot. I'm currently in the market for a long-term quarantine game. So,
yeah, so you can always go back to your Stardew Valley farm, right?
Yeah, or I could, finally bite the bullet and get Final Fantasy XIV that's currently on sale on Steam.
Yeah, right? That's also another one that, it's very easy to commit to just one flavor or, diversify as needed. But I just still don't think Harvest Moon or Story Seasons or any of the Rune Factory are dead by comparison to Stardew Valley, because at the end of the day, it's how much anime do you want in your farm sim, really? That's what it comes down to. Because definitely Rune Factory and Harvest Moon, but more so Rune Factory because of the combat, and there's a lot of JRPG anime storytelling elements for sure. And I'm sure Nathan can agree, and it's probably something that could attract you more to it than, say, a little more indie hometown. I wouldn't say it's fully North American because it's definitely still rooted in JRPG, but like Stardew Valley has its drama and its interrelationships, but it's definitely, I would argue, probably not as wacky and zany as Rune Factory could get.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I haven't played Stardew Valley, like, that much. I remember I bought it and then it just didn't grab me as Rune Factory does. So, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll go back and give it another shot, but it's like, for me, Rune Factory is still
it's the skin, right?
Yeah, Rune Factory to me is still the king of farming sims.
There you go. And then, of course, there's people who just want the real-life management, and they'll just play Farming Simulator. And there is a very deep community for that as well.
That is true. I know a lot of people love Farming Simulator, so it's for to each their own, right?
Yeah, it's... Exactly. There's like a very diverse choice out there. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited for Friends of Mineral Town to come up, because that's when I didn't really get around to playing myself. So seeing it ported over, it might be one that I could get my hands on and try it out. But we'll see how it all shakes down. Right now, I'm not in the market to buy any new games right now, just because, layoffs. Woo! Mm-hmm. But speaking of free things to play, Bravely Default, we got a surprise demo for Bravely Default 2 when they had a Nintendo direct that no one was expecting, and they made no mention of anything that Tyler likes.
Right, yeah.
But they do. I won't tease you too hard, Tyler. They did talk about the new Xenoblade Chronicles remaster. How's that shaping up?
It looks very pretty, very, very pretty, and I'm excited for the extra epilogue that they're adding, the Future Connected, which looks like it'll explore more of the Bionis.
And it links into 2 a bit better too, right? I've heard.
We'll see. I'm betting it looks like it will be. I know for like the character Alvis, I don't know if it's slight Xenoblade spoiler, so I won't go into it, but it does look like they're trying to link it more into Xenoblade 2.
Very cool. And it's just got a nicer, cleaner UI. It's shaping up to be really nice. I mean, obviously the remaster on the 3DS was remaster-ish, but like they're both looking dated, even though they still push the Wii so hard. But yeah, this is going to be a very welcome addition, I think, to the Switch library.
May 29th.
That's exciting. Can't come fast enough. Mm-hmm. Or I guess it could. Who knows? Depends on what you want to play. But we got the Bravely Default 2 demo that was announced during that as well. And that game is looking really sharp too. I like how it's still maintaining the aesthetic of Bravely Default with like the beautiful, lush 2D cities and such. It starts you out in the demo itself by prefacing that it's going to be a challenging game. You're at around level 10. And the enemies are a bit tough because they want you to explore the few jobs that you have available to you at this point, which in terms of the first game, you have the Freelancer, and then it's basically the first few jobs that you get in the original game, which would have been Black Mage, White Mage, the Monk, and the Knight, although in this game it's called, instead of Knight, they're called Vanguards. So you get access to all these jobs. They're all level 1, so you don't really have any of their skills, but you have the chance to kind of get out and grind. So the demo does require you to get out and grind a bit. So I've started out exploring the city of, I think it's called Salvano. My brain's now mixing it with Sylvando, and I'm like, And so you're in this like desert town that you've just arrived at, searching for the 4 crystals, because it gives you a little bit of a preface, because this demo basically is a little standalone thing, kind of like the demo was for Bravely Default back when. It was its own standalone thing just to give you a taste of the game a bit further along. But if it's like Bravely Default, I think you'll be rewarded for having a save file if you get the full game, which would be neat, because I think we got some in-game items and perks and stuff when if you had an existing save and then you bought the game after the fact. But it's been so long since I played it on 3DS, I can't remember now. But I put a good amount of time into it, and this feels very much like the same kind of taste of what the world and what the gameplay will be like. So it all is very similar to Bravely Default, just looks a lot better. It's almost like they took like the 3D models and stuff of Bravely Default and kind of meshed it with like the style of like the new Link's Awakening game. Like it's halfway in between there. It's a bit of like a tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics kind of like chibi kind of look, but they also all look like they're kind of made out of like a clay shiny 3D model kind of thing. So like the monsters are really cool and well detailed, but also just look a little like cartoony. Like they've done a good job of marrying the 3D with the cartoony vibe, which I like. But it also means like when they talk, it looks a little, I don't know. I like and don't like the style all at the same time, but I would say I lean more. It's probably like a 95% thing. So it's really not so bad. The 4 characters though, they're all basically the same characters for, if anyone, I mean, Jono, you're just starting Bravely Default. Have you found the full party yet? Or?
No, I mean, when I just started Bravely Default, I mean, I just got my second party member.
And Nathan, you played through all of Bravely Default, did you not?
I made it through, like, parts of Bravely Default, and then once I hit that part of Bravely Default, I was like, let's
right.
launch another game.
Ooh, I like the tap dancing that's going on here around, not trying to spoil me.
Yes, exactly. We tender to your experience. And Tyler, did you beat it?
I played a few hours, and then I heard about what happens later, and I stopped.
Fair enough.
You guys are making me feel great about this decision.
You'll have a good time. Yeah, you might enjoy it.
It's like it's not so much like we want to spoil it for you or like tell you what it is, but at the same time, maybe after the fact, if you want, we can talk about it. because it is, I guess, help to be aware of it, I suppose, what happens, and just know that if you accept it's there, kind of push through it, it's worth it. But if you don't know it's there, it can be very frustrating, I find. So I was kind of happy to kind of figure out, oh, this is what's going on, after I had gone through that moment a couple times and was like, oh, this is what I need to do? Oh, okay, cool. And not that I like got the solution, but I just knew, oh, I need to change up what I'm doing. And anyways, it can be a lot for people, and a lot of people have fallen off of it because of that. But I recommend to both of you fellows, definitely go back now that you've had the palate cleanse maybe and finish it off, because it's cool, and the final battle's rad, and anyways, it's awesome.
From what I've read, the Bravely Default 2, it sounds like it's going to be a completely new story, very similar in the sense that like Final Fantasy games are never related to the previous Final Fantasy games. So, I mean, if you guys wanted to jump on that, you probably could.
True.
That's true, too.
I think it will be related in some way to the original Bravely Default, because I think that's why they called it Bravely Default 2, so it just like takes place in the same world or something like that. It's kind of like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. It's, so far, like, obviously I don't have a bigger, broad scheme of the thing. Maybe it's on a different continent or whatever, to what the world was past. Well, even then, no, you jumped around to different continents, so maybe we are in a different world, but it definitely uses the same system. It's the Brave default system, where you stock up your Brave and then execute moves, or you can just go all out and then you're in a deficit and kind of defenseless until you get it back. One thing they changed up, which I'm not sure if I think just the whiny control freak in me doesn't like it, but I think it is actually for the better that they changed it up in the combat, because as you all may remember, you basically get to assign all of your actions to your team, and then things play out, right? If I recall.
Yeah, that's what was happening. Yeah. That's what's happening to me anyway.
Yeah. Whereas now, you do it on a turn-by-turn basis. So the first party member will be up, whoever, I'm not sure if it's based on agility or whatever, but I assume it's based on some sort of speed stat. And you can choose to do your action, whether it's, attack, use a spell, or a Brave or default. And then they will immediately execute that action. And then in between, enemies could. So, like I said, the control freak in me is like, but I wanted everyone to default and be on the defense. Because when you default, you defend, you charge up your Brave, and then you're able to unleash it, but you take less damage. But if the enemy acts before I default, I'm just like, well, what the heck was the point? But I guess, it flips over into the next turn where they will be still defaulted if the enemy goes again. So it all kind of does work out, but it just threw me off when I was expecting to be able to just like rip through my entire strategy and lay out my turn. And this time you only do it on a character by character basis. So that's a kind of a nice fresh recharge, a nice fresh take on the battle system. So that's one thing that's definitely changed. But they still have like the battle speed adjustment, and I haven't noticed if you can adjust the encounter rate or not, because this time enemies appear on the map too. That's another different thing. So you can actually use some strategy, kind of like, think of it like Earthbound and such, where you see them and then you touch them and then it engages you in a battle. They can come and attack you if they catch you off guard, or you catch them off guard. There's advantages. You can also swing your sword on the map, and if you can land a hit on them, you'll start the battle with one Brave for the entire team. So there's strategy in how you approach each individual battle as well. So I like that, though. That's a nice change. It makes the battles more engaging. But otherwise, yeah, the party all kind of seems similar. I would argue the voice acting and the writing is a bit better in this one. But yeah, all the voice acting is definitely better, but that could also just be symptomatic of the writing being better overall. But I really liked the banter between the characters, even though, again, all four of them are basically the same characters from the first one so far, where you have like your plucky young adventurer, and then you have the more stoic, slightly uptight, calm, demure character, the spunky warrior girl character, and the brash older guy who likes to hit on things possibly, or is just a bit more of a rogue or whatever. In what ways? This one, he seems to have a drinking thing, less of a hitting on thing. But yeah, he's Scottish, so that's fun. And then there's a character who, like, they've diversified the accents, which is nice too. So there's a character named Adele. I don't know who the actor is, but I love her accent. It's great. It gives some nice flavor to that character as well. But it's all being really well executed. So it seems like they're putting the same level of love and passion, though that was definitely into Bravely Default, which is one of the biggest things I think that attracted a lot of us to it, because that game looks awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love that whenever you like come into a town and then it has that big pan out, so you can they can show off the work that they've done on the detail on the map, and the same they've maintained that in this as well, and the night to day cycle and how the whole town kind of changes up a bit from that as well. and you still seem to be on a quest to find the 4 crystals, so it's very much like a core Final Fantasy in its experience, which is a throwback to Final Fantasy 4 Warriors of Light? 4 Heroes of Light? 4 Heroes of Light.
Yeah, it was 4 Heroes of Light.
Which basically set the stage for the whole Bravely Default series. So
the spiritual prequel.
Yeah, and the spiritual, it's exactly the spiritual prequel to the entire thing that established this kind of gameplay and art style and everything. So it's good. They're holding it up really, really well. So yeah, Johnny, you literally pretty much have just started Bravely Default. Was that at all motivated by the fact that Bravely Default 2 is coming up? Or
a little bit. I saw the trailer for Bravely Default 2, and I mean, it looks stunning. It's funny you said, obviously, it maintains the Bravely Default art style, and I know it's not the same. I know it's not the same developer, but it reminded me a fair bit of the way that the depth of field. It reminds me a fair bit of Octopath Traveler, actually.
There's definitely some correlations in there, which we've had some hints even back when like Octopath was getting some of its anniversary stuff too. They were hinting at the tie-in between the two as well.
Yeah, and I mean, if Octopath is, I've only played Octopath Traveler, and I had a good experience, slightly mixed, was slightly underwhelmed. But it strikes me that if Octopath Traveler is the Sega series, then Bravely Default's Final Fantasy. So it's like
That's fair.
It's like they're related, but Bravely is very story focused, whereas Octopath is not. And I know, again, it's, they're two different series, and they have some crossover with the developers, but not the development team.
Yeah, you can see the influence, but not. There's no like cookie cutter of each. There's a much more, I would argue, they're both different flavors of Final Fantasy. Like, I would say Octopath is very much like later Final Fantasy in terms of, like, it's very akin to, like, 6, for example.
It looks like 6, and the battles play like 6, but I would argue in terms of the structure and the way that the actual story is told, it's much more like a Romancing Saga title, which I believe anyone who's listened to this show will know I am not in love with.
You're a huge fan. What are you talking about?
You love those games.
Oh, they're...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I just got this weird flashback.
That's okay. We'll move forward. Let's move forward. Nathan, you played Octopath, didn't you?
I did. I also reviewed it for our site.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, okay. So Nathan, you played Octopath, and you've played a bit of Bravely. Like, between the two, I guess, which formats, like, which would you prefer?
The styles and gameplay are pretty similar. I think I prefer Octopaths personally, but it's almost the same. Like, basically the Bravely Default system works in, Bravely Default is
the break boost.
Yeah, it's almost the same as in Octopath Traveler. So, like,
because I haven't played Octopath too extensively, so I don't know if the pacing of the battle is a bit different.
It's generally the same, except you don't have to default to gain another boost point. But otherwise, that's pretty much the same.
Oh, okay.
It reminded me a fair bit of it. I'm just looking at our respective reviews. I reviewed the PC version. You liked it 4 points higher than I did. You gave it an 88 and I gave it an 84, but both of us liked it.
Yeah, like, it was a very enjoyable game. Like, I probably would have liked it a lot more if the story was better, but that was...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was it. It was the story, and that was the only thing about the game I didn't particularly love.
And yeah, it sounded like it should have been like a nice character piece, and it didn't really quite nail that, so to speak, although everyone does like each of the individual characters.
I mean, when you looked at it...
It's hard because they have no set protagonists, so the story can go in, like, totally different directions depending on who you started off with. So it's just, like, it's more of just, like, a gameplay, like, the way the gameplay is set up, rather than over the story itself.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, when you look at Octopath Traveler, at least for me, because nostalgia, the first thing I thought was, Final Fantasy 3 or 6. But like, you start playing it and you're like, okay, it feels and it looks like Final Fantasy 6, but it doesn't play like it in terms of the way the story is unfolding. It plays much more like a saga title. So that,
even though it has that broadcast, but it doesn't really give you that focus.
So I suppose that was something that actually disappointed me when I was playing it. But it looks like Bravely Default and Bravely Default 2 and I feel sad for Bravely Second now.
Will we get a Bravely Second 2?
I mean, they just review they name their titles just ridiculous things, so probably.
Yes, who knows? Tyler, you played them both as well. Like, again, is there a preference between the two formats that you like?
I mean, I actually, I say I beat Octopath Traveler, but I didn't do the super secret final dungeon. But I definitely, like, battle system wise, and overall gameplay, I did enjoy Octopath more, but as you guys have already said, like, there was just a real lack of structure to the overall story that it kind of became kind of a grind later in the game.
Yeah, and I find Bravely Default owns its grind up front because it does play very classic Final Fantasy, but it's the combat's there to kind of facilitate the movement of the story. But it is a very story heavy piece, very character heavy piece, which does make you commit to it more. And if it wasn't for certain gameplay hiccups in the original, it probably would have gotten people more into it. And I think that was them just trying to shake things up and add a twist that didn't fully land, but they were able to establish a good groundwork, which I think they've done with Octopath, and I'd be really excited to see what the next Octopath Traveler is, if they've kind of nailed that system and look so well, and if you do get a bit more investment into the characters and into the story, and if they're able to make the characters come together better, it can make all the difference.
That was the thing. It had really good characters, but they just had no chemistry between them whatsoever in Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, there was just no interaction between them.
Yeah, whereas in Bravely Default, and they've kept it in Bravely Default 2 too, as well. There we go. Which is was great. Is that the character chatter thing that kind of happened every once in a while, based on, I'm never really sure what it was. If it was based on certain events, based on actions, or if it was they just randomly cropped up. But you would get a little prompt that would say that characters want to interact, and then you could get them to start chattering with each other about one thing or the other. So that already has happened in the first few moments of the demo for me. I was out and about, and all of a sudden, two of them needed to talk about how hot it was outside because they were in a desert. And that's just kind of fun character building. It doesn't really serve the story. It doesn't build relationships between the two of them. Like, say, if you were playing Dragon Age Origins or something like that, and the characters had banter between them, and then eventually you would develop some sort of relational thing between them that influences, what kind of choices you make, how much they like you. It's just there to character build and make them seem like, oh, this is a cohesive party that should be chatting amongst one another. And I think like that's great. And if they can get that into Octopath as well, that sounds like, it would definitely fix a lot of the problems for the game. But I also, which, again, I haven't played Octopath, but I do know that Bravely Default, if you played your card right and understood the system of the job classes and the ability assignments and such well enough, you could not fully break the game, but you can make some pretty game-breaking classes. Like I had an Agnes who was a monk, and I had her coupled up with, I think, a red mage ability that basically every single time she killed an enemy, she gained back her BP. So I could basically make her max out her brave right at the beginning, so she'd be on a -4 deficit, but she would just kill everything with one shot and be back at like flat to do it again next turn if I wanted. And it was pretty disgusting. And then I could also couple her up with switch out the abilities for boss fights where she could also like really regain her BP really easy and just be wrecking things. So that was very satisfying. Was Octopath as easy to break?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could break things, yeah.
Yeah, there were certain classes and abilities that if you paired them, you just became... It was... I will say that the last dungeon, like the special secret last dungeon, drove me crazy because I got to it and I just plowed through all of the pre-bosses, like without a sweat. Like I just got through all of them. It was simple. I was barely even paying attention by that point. And then I hit the final boss and it was like running into a brick wall. The difficulty curve just shot upwards so friggin' hard that I couldn't touch him. So but you can break the game in a fun way.
And that's the important part. I didn't feel like I was in a non-fun way for sure. Although I definitely did a second playthrough, or had started a second playthrough of Bravely Default, understanding how the game works. And you have you been doing much with the little town as well, where like it kind of almost plays not like a mobile phone game where like you have to wait for time and stuff to accrue and develop your town. Have you gotten that? I don't know if you got that early in the game just yet. But you get it pretty early in.
I just got my second party member. Like I was just the airship just bombed the crap out of the cave as I was running through it.
Oh, okay, yes, okay. So yeah, very shortly. It's not much of a spoiler, but you'll get like a little side project that kind of functions like one of those mobile phone games where like you can build something, but like this will take a minute and a half to build. You can hurry it usually in the mobile games you have to pay money for it. In this, it's certain stuff you could get, or you just have to wait. So you would find with the 3DS, you would set something up that's going to be like, oh, it's going to take 10 hours to build this thing, or 8 hours, and you would just shut it and put it to sleep for the night. And then when you woke up the next day, oh, it's built. Now I can do something else. And it unlocks some special shop stuff for you and things. So I had done that. I'd gotten to the point in the game in my new save and had basically just been running my 3DS to build up this town, even though I wasn't progressing the story at all. And I had pretty much had the entire town rebuilt in like the first like hour, arguably, of gameplay for the game. So then once I grinded enough, I basically bought everybody like a way too powerful bow for what level they were at, and was able just to one-shot everything. And it was kind of a very funny... I've broken the game at the moment for myself just to see if I could, and it was very funny that I could do that. So I've got all these like level 5 3 lancers just like one-shotting everything with like one of the best bows in the game, which is pretty gross. And it was able to let me really just tank through things real fast. So if you know how to manipulate them, they're very easy to break, and it's good to know that you can kind of do that in both. It rewards player ingenuity, I guess, and I imagine that's going to be very present with the Brave Default system in this game as well. Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't mind if you can break a game if you have to earn it. It's if you can break a game like without even trying. It's like getting a Game Genie code and you can just play through it. That drives me crazy. But if you have to spend a good couple of hours grinding to figure out the combination, then that you've earned the break.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, making a monk Ramza with 2 hands, that's a commitment. But it pays off when you're demolishing everything with a double hit of like 900 hit points worth of damage back in Final Fantasy Tactics. That was a fun game to break as well. At any rate, I agree with you. It's if you can game the system but earn it, it's totally worthwhile. At any rate, we have talked about many games, but one that we keep teasing for you all, I would say, is the fact that Persona 5 Royal is coming up. Nathan is very excited about it. If you haven't checked out Nathan's review on progress, please go do so. How is the Persona 5 Royal? How's the change up from with the new version?
It's the point now where I don't even want to go back to Persona 5 anymore. Like, Persona 5 Royal is definitely the much better version. Like, by a lot.
And, take me through, what have they improved in this version?
Where do I start? So they've changed a lot of things. So they've started with probably changing the palaces, so palaces are a lot easier. Change up the gameplay, so you can use guns now whenever you want, because before you had to be careful how you spent all your bullets, but now bullets are automatically refreshed after every battle, so you can just use them liberally. They added this new thing called Will Seeds. Will Seeds will restore your SP every time you pick them up in palaces, which is a huge boost early on in the game when you don't have a lot of SP to work with early.
Are there won't seeds that won't recharge your SP?
No, there aren't any won't seeds.
I'll be here all day, everybody. Try the liver.
But they also allow you early on, basically before if you travel to a dungeon, you couldn't do anything that night, and then Morgana will tell you to go to bed. That doesn't happen as much anymore. You can now stick around your house, and you can do things around your house after exploring a dungeon, which is huge. And even after some story events, because before in some story events, Morgana will be like, "Okay, we got a big day tomorrow. Let's go to sleep." But no, he'll actually just let you go out and do stuff. Well, not go out, but
that's awesome.
We'll let you do some activities in your house. So
there's kind of more to do. That's cool.
A lot more to do, a lot more freedom. So it's
less waiting around.
Yeah. There's not a lot of dead time, because sometimes in Persona 5 you'd have to like after you finish a palace, there'd be almost this dead period where you wait for the next thing to happen, and then every single time Morgana will tell you to go to sleep. And it was super frustrating because it would break up the pacing of the game, because every day it would just be story, and then you have to go to bed, and then that was basically it. But now with this version, you can actually do stuff in between.
That's cool. And the combat, does the unlimited bullets thing basically make combat faster, or how has it changed the shape of how you approach combat?
It helps a lot early on, because early on in the first dungeon, a lot of enemies are weak to bullets, but because you had a limit on bullets before, you really didn't want to use them, and you had to be very strategic in how you use bullets. But now you can actually just use them liberally now. But it doesn't help a lot later on in the game. It's mainly for the first 2 dungeons or so, but still, it's a nice thing to have.
Do you find that it makes it too easy now? It doesn't make does it remove too much of the strategy, or is it still engaging enough that you didn't find you're just kind of like mashing through it and it's brainless now?
It's definitely more like geared towards anyone who's new starting Persona 5 or just Persona for the first time in general. If you're a veteran of Persona, I'm sure you'll find this like it's probably a little bit too easy for you now, because I was watching Scott on his stream yesterday. He just blew through the first palace pretty much. So for people like Scott, who have played all the Persona games up to this point, it's probably a little bit too easy now, but for anyone who's new, this is the perfect point to jump in, because it's not as punishing as it originally was.
And yeah, so Tyler, you've played Persona 5, so
Yes.
Are these changes attracting you to Royal?
A little bit, yeah, because like, especially being able to use bullets without having to worry about running out and being able to do stuff at night, that sounds really, really appealing. But
it's funny phrasing like that. You wanna do stuff at night, huh? Go do some stuff. Anyways, sorry, carry on.
No, it's
just I'm just being silly.
So that's
been 3 weeks at home. What do you want from me?
I did have a question though. Have you gotten the new playable character that's for Persona 5 Royal?
I have not, and I get the feeling I'm not going to until I hit the new content, which is like the end game. So unfortunately for anyone who is hoping to have the new character on your team for the game, that's I'm unfortunately I'm going to shoot that down, because I'm about to approach the final dungeon of the original game, and she's still not on the team yet. So
holy crap!
Yeah, so she's only for the last dungeon, I assume.
That's too bad.
Oh my gosh, because that's
so
one reason
change the shape too much.
That's kind of why I'm not too eager to play Royal, because I put over 100 hours into the original, and I'm like, I don't know if I have the willpower to go through the game again and then have to wait until it get to the new content like that.
Yeah, like the thing is, you could still hang out with her, but before she joins you, so it's not like she's not in the story. So because you can still level up her confinement to a certain point. So like it's not like a waste. It's not like everything's safe until like the third semester. But
okay.
So there's a couple new characters that they introduce you. You can still hang out with them like early on in the game. So it's not like it's like everything's at the end of the game. So there's that.
Well, that's good.
I've never played a Persona game. I've told that 4 is the place to kind of jump in, although 5 sounds like with Royal, the improvements are enough now that maybe help it. Have they changed much in the story as well? Because I know there were some problematic elements with, handling some gender issues and LGBTQ issues and stuff too. And how much have they adapted and taken criticism for that, or is it just the same sort of thing?
For the story overall, it's generally the same. They in between, they'll have scenes with the new characters that weren't in the original one. They just kind of insert them in pretty cleverly, so it's kind of like just what would have been a random day in the game. They now have like a character interaction with the new characters. So there's that. In terms of the parts with the LGBT scenes that were heavily criticized, it's more ambiguous now, like in terms of like the abuse, because I play on Japanese dub, and it's pretty obvious that they didn't change the dialogue in the original version, because it still sounds because I was listening to it, I'm like, that's not what the English text is saying, but I'm assuming for the English dub they have changed it, and like I said, it's definitely not as like predatory as it was in the original version.
Well, that's an important thing to adapt, and I guess it's know your audience, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I guess that was a bigger deal here. And now it's just a beast of a game, so that's more just what's been taking time for you, that it's just been a long game. I know you were under the weather and stuff too and had to take some break from that, but for the most part it's a long game.
Yeah, it's a long game. I'm at 105 hours now, and like I said, just approaching the final dungeon of the original game, so I still got another like 20 or so hours to go. Like I should be able to pump that out the next few days and then have my review up hopefully by next week.
So probably by the time this episode is out, your review should be out as well.
It should
so
be, yeah.
That's exciting. John, have you ever Persona'd?
I haven't. It's one of those games that I've just completely and utterly missed, although I'm looking for a new... I'm looking for a replacement for Yakuza, so hey, there's enough of them.
This is a good quarantine game. Just saying. 120-hour game, perfect.
Yeah, if you got the time to commit to it, and why the heck not? And building your social links and all that stuff. So largely it's a lot of the same, just a few quality of life things that kind of fix the pacing of the game, I guess, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, which is huge because there were a lot of pacing issues with the original Persona 5. So this helps a lot, and it just feels better. Like, I don't really know how to describe it until you played it. It's just like everything just like works way better than it used to.
And are you playing it more handheld or TV?
Only on PS4, so only on TV. Well, for me, I'm playing on remote play, so because my TV's usually taken most of the time. You probably might be able to hear in the background now, but my TV's usually taken, so I usually play it on my computer through remote play. So that's how I play it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought it was I guess P5R isn't.
No, the P5
Switch exclusive.
P5S is on Switch, and then P5R, Persona 5 Royal here. This is only on PS4.
That's what I'm confused with S and R. And is S got the same stuff as R in it? Do we? I haven't looked too deeply into it.
Persona 5 Scramble is a Muso game, or a Muso-like game, and hasn't been announced for a Western release. And Atlas just put out a survey that asked us if we want it, and so I'm just guessing localization hasn't started on that game yet, which makes me very sad.
So we shall see what happens, I guess, with that down the road. So P5R, it's so weird. I wonder, like, is there going to be like an upgrade if you like want to download like a DLC upgrade for people who got P5 and can get this version? Like, how are they? It seems very cheeky.
I highly doubt it. Yeah, I highly doubt that will happen. And like all the stuff that they had to put into P5R to make it different will probably not fit into the base game like in any way unless they drastically change the code of the original game. So I get the feeling that this is not gonna it's just not gonna happen.
It seems like such an annoying thing for consumers to have to go through, like to invest in this game that you've been waiting so long for, and then the developers go back and now we've released this better version of it that probably should have been the original. And this is, the argument we've had in the past with DLC, and sometimes you find that you'll get like a DLC story release very shortly after the launch of a game, and it seems clear that like that was probably intended for the initial launch, but then you held it off either because it wasn't ready or you just wanted to make like 20 more bucks. And it seems like, Dragon Quest 11S, its saving grace is the fact that it was Switch only, so that's a nice change, I guess, and for Switch owners who didn't have the access to the other versions, that's one thing. But if you had all those consoles and knew that down the road this was coming, it's like, well, you'd almost hold out. And obviously they can't telegraph that or it's going to hurt their sales. But it almost makes you want to be a little like gun shy with pulling the trigger and getting the first launch of it for like, well, what if they do the bigger, better version now or the remaster version, right?
Yeah, I understand people's frustrations with Persona 5 Royal and how, it's so short, it's so short a time period. Like, Persona 5 only came out 3 years ago. No, not even 3 years ago. Like, it's technically like 2 years, like 10 or 11 months ago. So it's not even like that long. So I understand why people are upset, but it's pretty clear Atlas listened to the criticism that Persona 5 had, and they made the necessary changes. And the Persona 5 Royal is so much better game because of that. So if you have somehow never played Persona 5, you should pick up Royal, and this is definitely the best version.
It's like the green side of me is disheartened by it, because obviously like, well, now there's going to be like all these discs turned into, I mean, obviously not right now because you can't go into a store and trade stuff in and get your return on it if you didn't do it before stores were closed down. But like people, it's just like all this stuff's just going to be sitting on shelves. It's like, well, why would you invest in, because it's not going to depreciate that much yet. Why would you even bother buying even a used version of Persona 5 when you may as well just buy a Persona 5 Royal, right? So it's just all this waste, all these abandoned discs out there. It's like it may well be just abandonware at this point, because you may as well just buy Persona 5R, because it's not like it's a console exclusive or anything like that either, right? So it's kind of like, well, what was the point? Anyways, that's a bigger, I guess, conversation, so to speak, but it doesn't seem very consumer friendly in general for companies to have this sort of practice.
Yeah, like I
don't know.
I'm sure people wouldn't have had this much backlash against Royal if it came out like say like 2 years from now, or it came out on PS5.
Yeah, and it was just like a last ditch grab for money or something.
Yeah.
Or it was a PS5 thing. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Jono?
I think that I can't even call it a trend at this point, because it is basically the way things are done.
It's a practice now almost.
It's an established practice. And I think that we're going to be seeing more and more enhanced versions of games come out in the future. I would be very surprised, actually, if a lot of companies didn't start doing that within the next year, because there's going to be a lot of stopping and starting of work on a lot of games. And if they can go back and release a updated version of something with a little bit more content on a different, after exclusivity is gone, that's going to save them a lot of money and give them another product. I mean, just talking about Dragon Quest 11S, I can't help but wonder if the Switch exclusive stuff, the 2D version of the game, the enhanced audio, stuff like that, might be Switch exclusive and then come later this year. It won't either come as a DLC. It'll come as a DLC update to the PC and the PlayStation 4 version.
Which we had talked about. We're hoping that could have been the case. So yeah, PS4 buyers and whatnot wouldn't be left hang out to dry. And I don't think there's it's not as extensive as what Nathan was saying for P5R. So it could conceivably happen, but there hasn't been any announcement or mention of it. So it's just are they just leaving initial purchasers out to dry?
I understand, but I genuinely, as a consumer and a lover of video games, I do find it to be an annoying practice where, I love the idea of releasing a remaster or an updated version with new content years after it comes out, even 5 years after it comes out, because 5 years later you might be on a completely different console generation. But a couple of I appreciate that this game is better, and to be honest,
Has it even been a year yet?
Yeah,
or it's been a bit over.
Yeah, a bit over. But hearing you talk about this is really making me want to play this game, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind which version I would get. So it's irritating.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's a different thing.
I guess.
Go ahead, Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, to be fair, I guess. I mean, this isn't new to the Persona series. They did that with Persona 3 with Fess and Persona 4 Golden, but it still doesn't make it a really good practice. And these games are so long that I never feel compelled by any new content to go back to them.
It's surprising that fans don't just pick up on that and just we're all just going to wait for the inevitable better version.
I think it's because the wait is so excruciating. Persona 5 was supposed to come out 2013 or 2014, and it took 2017 for it to come out. It was, I think that's
it definitely preys on your desire for it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It preys on your need and your addiction to the series and wanting to the next thing. To what if do I have to wait another year to get the better version? Do I want to? Do I want to risk it being spoiled? Or what if some people don't wait, and then it's the FOMO and all that stuff starts playing in. It's but this whole thing is very different from, say, we just got an announcement saying Code Princess, I think. That was on the 3DS, is being pulled from the 3DS eShop shortly.
It got pulled already.
For example. Yeah, it got pulled now. And that's they didn't announce really why, but the speculation is, it's a business move because they're releasing an advanced version for the Switch. So they're just well, why would we dilute our sales by letting people buy the cheaper, older version, and let's drive them to the newer, better product that's full price now, right? So it's I can get that, like Jono said, if it's several years later in a console generation switch, I can understand consumer or the business doing that, but it's another thing wholly for this practice. Anyways,
the same console.
Not a fan of console. That's what I can say. Yeah, exactly. There's nicer ways to handle it, I suppose, but it's just when it's just seems wasteful at this point. It's weird. At any rate, that's thanks for committing to this game. It sounds like it's been again a job for you.
Yeah, well, I was happy too because I really wanted to go back to Persona 5, but when I heard P5R is coming out, I might as well wait to do another playthrough.
And then and here you are. Again, like I said, it's on my radar, something I could eventually get to, but I think I'd probably, if I wanted to go invest in a big long series, I'd probably pick Trails over this first.
Ooh.
That's an investment, yeah.
So I've heard. Well, on that end, listeners, I think we're going to wrap things up. We've had a lot of games to talk about, and thank you so much for being on, fellows. Thank you, listeners, for listening. As always, you can give us an email at podcast@rpgfan.com or check with me on Discord. I've I will continue to assault your ears with saying, email me, give me your attention. I want questions. I want to engage with you. And please feel free to do that. Otherwise, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram and Twitch. We got all those streams going on. We're at RPGFancom on Instagram and Twitter. We're on Facebook, and you can engage with us. Please reach out to us. We love hearing from you. And you can also check out some of our other podcasts we got going on. I do lie when I said I haven't really been playing much in the way of RPGs. I have been playing Soul Blazer for Retro Encounter. I just didn't really go into it much because I go into it a lot on that. So go check out the upcoming episodes of Retro Encounter where we play through Soul Blazer, because that game's rad. I like blazing for souls.
Yeah, just tell us, like, does it hold up?
Oh yeah, it's super fun.
Awesome.
Like, the AI is terrible, but it is fun. I've been enjoying the replay. Just the AI is dumb as bricks, but there's a lot of fun little, like, the world exploration and unlocking things, and the mechanic of it is really fun, and it still plays pretty smooth actually, which is neat. So that's been fun. And yeah, check that out coming up. And otherwise, you got Hat and Eric with the Phoenix Edge podcast. They are continuing to, of course, stream their recordings and such, if I'm not mistaken. So if you need some live engagement with humans and want to engage with them on their show, go check out them and what they do. And if you want to listen to music, all the back episodes of Rhythm Encounter are alive and well for you. Hopefully we'll get the series up and running now, maybe with this downtime. We don't know yet. We've got bigger things to fry at the website. So, as always, check out rpgfan.com for all that stuff. Until next time, friends, Tyler, Jono, and Nathan, thank you so much for being on today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will hopefully get you back sooner than later. For myself and all these fine fellows, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, bye.